I know we just said the masks, but I think you'll hear me a lot better, and I'm far enough away. I'll put it right back on after my presentation to you. Well, good morning to all of you, and I thank you so much for coming this morning and sharing your morning with us. And before I do begin, I would like to acknowledge the council members and our mayor. Mayor Gary Smith is in the room. Thank you, Mayor. And we have Councilman David Israel is in the room here with us.
My beautiful wife, Cynthia.
And his wife, Cynthia. And we have Elizabeth Caswell, council member Caswell in the room. I thank all of you for being here. Now, let's begin. And what I'd like to say is that what my goal is, this is my goal for all of you today. When you leave, I want you to have a greater understanding of how a bill becomes law in Florida and how important your role is in this process. We will be discussing several pending bills that could impact the community you live in, as well as to let your voice be heard by our legislators in Tallahassee. So let's get started with a brief review of today's agenda. The Volusia League of Cities, local voices for local choices or home rule, pending bills of interest, how a bill becomes a law, and constituent action. I stand here before you this morning in my capacity as a representative of the Volusia League of Cities and as the chair of the League's Advocacy Committee. The League represents all Volusia municipalities and acts as the collective voice of all the residents at the county, state, and federal levels. The League also supports sound municipal government countywide. Now, who are the members? On the screen now is the complete list in alphabetical order. The League's direction is charted by a board of directors made up of elected officials from individual municipalities. On the screen now is the 2021 Board of Directors for the Volusia League of Cities, and I'm delighted to have our League President, Mayor Don Burnett of Port Orange, here with us this morning, Mayor Nancy Miller of Daytona Beach Shores, as well as Brandon Young, council member in South Daytona. Our current board is made up of 5 mayors, 1 vice mayor, and 4 commissioners or council members. The board of directors is elected each year by the members from each of the municipalities. This board meets bi-monthly and sets the agenda for the business meetings of all the elected officials in the county. Now let's talk about a term that we hear quite often when it comes to advocacy. What exactly is home rule? Quite simply, home rule is local decision-making and self-government. Why is home rule important? The most precious power a city in Florida has, its ability to establish its own form of government through its charter and to enact ordinances, codes, plans, and resolutions without prior state approval. The ability to enact and enforce at home and to make necessary changes as the city's needs evolve is a reflection of the trust that we have in our local municipal leaders. Now, where do the United States and the Florida Constitution stand on the issue of home rule? The Constitution of the United States does not mention local governments. Instead, the 10th Amendment reserves authority-giving powers to the states. Home rule is a delegation of power from the state to the municipalities. The powers and limits of home rule authority for local governments are defined in our state constitution and in our legislation. So, what constitutes an attack on home rule? Whenever the state legislature attempts to pass mandates is an attack on home rule. A mandate dictates that cities do specific things without providing the resources required to fill them. An attack could also be in the form of a preemption, where one-size-fits-all policy directives circumvent local decision-making. We will see examples of this when we move on to our list of pending bills. Home rule is eroded whenever lawmakers in Tallahassee pass laws that are uniformly applicable to each municipality without taking into account the unique needs and characteristics of each one. When this happens, we lose control at the local level and cede it to the state. Our residents expect us, your local leaders, to be responsive to your needs and to ensure that those needs are reflected in our local ordinances. Now, exactly what is a bill? A bill is proposed legislation under consideration by the legislature, the House and the Senate, and once the bill is passed by the legislature, it will go to the governor for final disposition if it is to become law. Before we get into just how a bill becomes law, let's take a look at a few bills that are pending in the House and in the Senate. Let's start with House Bill 403 and its companion Senate Bill 266. These bills deal with the regulation of home-based businesses. Now you can read on the slide what the bills permit a home-based business to do while tying the hands of your local government. If your next-door neighbor decides to open up a business repairing truck transmissions, this is certainly something that you would want your local elected officials to regulate. And maybe your community would find it acceptable if an accountant were to operate out of his or her home, as they do not generate the same level of noise and disruption. These are the kinds of decisions we want to keep at a local level. So the Florida League of Cities and the counties are all affiliated with this. The Volusia League of Cities is associated with the Florida League of Cities, which is the umbrella over all the counties. They oppose House Bill 403, and the Volusia League will most likely be in agreement with their opposition because we are trying to all protect home rule. So the Florida League of Cities opposes House Bill 403 because it truly takes away all of our authority to regulate a home-based business while it is being permitted in a residential community. A preemption. The Senate bill is somewhat less restrictive, and although the preference on the part of the Florida League is that it not pass, because it does permit some local regulation controlling noise and hours of operation, for example, by a municipality, the Florida League of Cities has given it a neutral rating. Generally speaking, we are going to, Volusia County will be following the lead of the Florida League. Let's consider now House Bill 883 and the companion Bill 60. This bill seeks to prohibit local code enforcement officers from investigating violations if the complaints are made anonymously. Now, some municipalities may want to take into account that one neighbor complaining against another creates an extremely uncomfortable environment, so it may want to continue to investigate anonymous complaints. Again, this is something that residents would have rather have it discussed at the local level. Now, because we do have the situation here where we may have amendments to the bill that could be deemed beneficial, the Florida League of Cities has put this on watch, but that's exactly what we're doing. We are watching. Now, the Florida League of Cities opposes the state stepping in and taking away the ability of a community to regulate a number of items. Now, on the next slide, what we have here, House Bill 55 and its companion Bill 284, this is problematic because it impacts our local zoning and development ordinances. It is telling the local government that we're going to identify for you exactly what the exterior color, type, or style of exterior cladding will be. They are getting into the business of telling us what our homes should look like. There are a few exceptions to this, but we are opposed to this. We want our communities to look the way we want our communities to look. Now, on our next slide, what we have here is what has become a very hot button issue. These are the short-term and vacation rental regulations. I can assure you that this is very fluid as it goes through the process. This particular set of bills have amendments that are attempted, but as they move, we are keeping a very strong eye on them. Now, the bill seeks to turn over the regulation, licensing, and inspections of these properties to the Department of Business and Professional Regulation, what we call the DBPR. And in the House version, this is complete preemption, and this is why it's problematic, well, for many reasons. But right here is, by their own data, the DBPR is already overburdened and unable to address their current responsibilities, which include licensing and regulating more than 1 million businesses and professionals in the state of Florida without adding short-term rentals for something to be their responsibility. So right now, we have local code enforcement officers in each community that take on the regulation, licensing, and inspections. We already have something in place. We have the human resources, we have the structure in place, we have our financing in place, we have it in place. It shouldn't be taken away from us. And we certainly do not want to lose control on this issue, which could potentially change the characteristics of many municipalities in Florida. So the Florida League of Cities strongly opposes the House version of the bill. Now the Senate version, it has a lot less preemptions in it, and right now there is an amendment and it deals with only licensing that would go to the state, and that is why you see it on the Florida League of Cities watch. But I can assure you, we flip and flop sometimes from neutral, watch, opposed, depending upon what happens to the bill. Now, for some good news, I do have good news here. Not every single bill is bad. And the Florida League of Cities will support bills that benefit our local communities. For example, House Bill 7019 and Senate Bill 1954 establish a $100 million fund to help local governments deal with sea level rise. This is a good bill. And here are a few more bills that the Florida League of Cities supports. Senate Bill 515 and House Bill 315 establish a statewide Office of Resiliency that is dealing with the issues of flooding and sea level rise. Senate Bill 1240, that is an annual appropriation for beach and inlet projects. Many Florida cities will certainly welcome that, coastal communities and also inland. And then we have our own Representative Leak and Senator Wright are the sponsors of House Bill 1133 and Senate Bill 1504, and it compels, not just permits, it compels the EPA to issue permits for coastal armoring, and that's seawalls. This is making coastal protection, the whole process, more easily accessible to those who need it. So these are excellent bills. Now that we have looked at several pending bills, let us focus on how citizens can get involved in the process and ensure that their voices and concerns can be heard when it comes to the types of bills we just discussed. And it all comes with an understanding of how a bill becomes a law in Florida. So let's take a look at that now. Something from high school, I think. In many cases, it starts with a resident, the concerned citizen, or a group of residents. And in fact, we have in the audience today a woman named Debbie Dorino, who will describe to us how her initiative resulted in what became known as Ponce's Law. Citizens may meet with their local elected officials to discuss their ideas, and if the representative or senator feels that it is a cause that they would like to pursue, he or she may introduce the bill to get the process started. I will first speak in terms of the process in the House because it is quite similar in the Senate. Now, once the bill's been drafted and it's read into a journal, which is an actual journal, it's a record, if you will, the House Speaker will assign the bill to the appropriate committee and subcommittees where hearings are held on the bill. This critical step of sitting in committees is a significant opportunity for individual citizens to be heard on the issue. These are public hearings, which include public input. It is not necessary to drive up to Tallahassee to speak in person. Letter writing, emails, phone calls can be effective as well, particularly if enough of them are received by the committee members. There have been numerous examples of pending bills being stopped in their tracks due to a virtual tsunami of letters, emails, and phone calls. Quite often, it is just certain parts of a bill that citizens might find objectionable, while you find other parts of the bill acceptable. Committee hearings are a key step where bills can be amended to increase the chances of passage. Citizen input is a critical component of that process. Concerns can be addressed with amendments, but the concerns must be known and articulated. Once the bill emerges from committee, the bill is placed on the House calendar before making its way to the House chamber. Once there, further debate and amendments may take place. Citizens can monitor the debate and once again contact their legislators if additional concerns arise over the amended terms of the bill. Once the amendment process and debate has come to an end, 2 formal votes will be taken on the House floor, and if there are enough yes votes, the House sends a message over to the Senate that the bill is passed and would like the Senate to please do the same. While all of this is going on in the House, the same process is marching through in the Senate, the same process of committees, amendments, discourse, and what will eventually happen if the Senate votes to pass the bill on the Senate floor, then we must make sure that both the House and the Senate bills are the same. If they are not the same and they can't work out their differences to make them the same, the bill doesn't go anywhere. The bills just don't move. But if the bills are the same, they then move on to the governor, and at that stage, once the bills are presented, one of 3 things can occur. The governor can sign the bill into law, allow it to pass without his signature, or veto it. Now, as I mentioned during the previous slide, we saw the advocacy process in action right here in Ponce Inlet when then Governor Scott was here for the ceremonial signing of Ponce's Law that provides protection for our animals from harm, abuse, and torture. Ponce's Law made its way along the path that we just discussed and culminated in the picture you see on this screen now. And standing to my left is Debbie Dorino. And without Debbie, there would be no Ponce's Law. Her persistence, her dedication, and her hard work in this legislative process culminated in her bill that has become known now as Ponce's Law. The advocacy process does indeed produce results, and Debbie, would you be kind enough to come up and say a few words to us?
Thank you. This looks long, but it's really not. How this all started is somebody tagged me on a Facebook post that involved a horrific case of animal abuse. As most of you that live in Ponce Inlet know, the story of Ponce, the 9-month-old black lab that was beaten to death by its owner. Like most people, it took me a little bit to be able to actually read that story because I knew it was going to be a really bad story. Whenever you see an animal in a big black box with big black caption, it's going to be bad. So at that moment, I read the story. I knew it was going to be bad, and I just was alone in my red bedroom, just on Facebook, and I knew I needed to do something. It was such a tragic story. It just put a spark in my heart to get out there and do something, not just sit there and read it, but actually go do something about it. The story made me cry. I cried for days. It was hard not to think about what Ponce went through. And that is what kept me going and not stopping. That's all it took, the will and determination to make a change. That's the beginning of how Ponce's Law came to be. I researched the statute, made the changes that needed to be made so that the law would be able to do what it was intended to do. I made appointments with my local legislators about the change I wanted to make. Former Police Chief Frank Fabrizio and I met with Representative Tom Leake, Representative Paul Renner, the late Senator Dorothy Huckel, our local state attorney, R.J. Larissa, for sponsorship and guidance to help us along the way. I reached out, I got support from the big animal organizations like HSUS, the ASPCA. I also reached out to the Florida Sheriff Association, Florida Police Chief Association, and the Florida Prosecuting Attorneys Association, and got them to support the bill also. I spent the next 8 months of my life, day and night, sometimes up till 1 or 2 in the morning, not even eating dinner, gathering signatures on a petition I created that to this day has over 148,000 signatures on it. I wrote emails, I posted posts about the bill, sharing this change called Ponce's Law, and joining one of the best groups there is, the Justice for Ponce group. Most people think that that is my group. I'm actually a member of that group. That group is about 10, 11,000 people that come from all walks of life. Some of them are just residents, some of them are teachers, some of them work for the state, some of them are prosecutors, some of them are police officers, animal control officers, all different types of people are in the Justice for Ponce group. They're a great group of people who have the same passion. They want to make change. They want to support Ponce's Law and all that all that it stands for. You see, people always want to know what they can do to help. We all have our own part in protecting the animals. Some write letters, some emails, some rally, some make phone calls, some change the law. We all have a part, and when you bring these passions together, you have a force that cannot go unnoticed. All it takes is one person, just one person, willing to push for change and act on it, to push until you achieve your goal. Tom Leake was my choice for House sponsor. He got Ponce's Law passed, and of 3,250 bills, only 195 passed. Ponce's Law was one of them. It passed in its first year. Most bills don't. Ponce's Law also put Florida Florida 13th in the nation for great animal laws. This month is dedicated to the prevention of animal cruelty. I was awarded as one of the top 10 animal defenders in America by the Animal Legal Defense Fund. This is what it's all about, protecting and defending the animals. If everyone does their part, even just making that first call, then countless lives can be saved and protected from abusers. I want to add that that first call for ponds was made by a local resident, Dennis Vogel. Dennis Vogel has a German Shepherd dog named Iko, and around midnight, Iko heard the cries of ponds and urged Dennis to go see. He knew, this animal knew that a fellow animal was in danger, that something really bad was happening. Dennis followed the noises. Dennis made the call. So really, Dennis is the reason we have Ponce's Law. Had he not made that call, none of us would have known about it. So it's very important that you make that call. You can remain anonymous. You don't have to tell them who you are. Just report it. Thank you.
Debbie, thank you so much. And she expressed the process, and as you could see, an individual can make a change, and even if you don't really know how to do it, you learn along the way, and sometimes it takes a team effort, but we are here, and you have the lead behind you. So, Debbie, all I can say is thank you. Thank you. Now, on to our next and last subject is how you can get involved and stay informed when pending legislation could impact your community. I would imagine everyone here has a smartphone, and if you were to text Home Rule to 50457, it will subscribe you to receive text alerts from the Florida League. I included directions on this in the handouts you have on the table in front of you, and by doing so, you will be among the first to know when bills that might impact your community are pending. You can also check the Florida League of Cities website for weekly bill summaries. And when it comes to advocacy, there is strength in numbers. One very effective strategy is to organize neighborhood and condominium meetings that produce collective statements to be sent to legislators. The Volusia League of Cities has a complete list of which legislators are working on which bills at any given time. And you have a contact list in front of you of our legislators, and the Volusia League is always available to help you with your advocacy needs. Now, continuing, the Volusia League can organize roundtable meetings with your local representatives and senators to provide you with the opportunity to meet them, speak with them, and discuss not only your concerns, but pending or future legislation. And if you are a condominium board president or someone who is active in the local community, consider signing on with the Volusia League's key contact, or someone who should be notified when pending bills could have an adverse impact where you live.
Short-term rentals? Sorry. Short-term rentals? Short-term rentals?
Direct communication is often very effective as well. Our representatives and senators all publish their contact information, and many residents take the time to contact them directly. And last but not least, get out and vote. Your vote is the most powerful tool you have in your toolbox. Our elected officials understand that their decisions and actions have a direct impact on their constituents, and that we support the officials who respect and work to preserve home rule. Now, we're not going to get to questions just yet. I am so honored to introduce a three very special guest, the Florida League of Cities President, Honorable Tony Ortiz, who has also served as commissioner from the City of Orlando for nearly 15 years. President Ortiz traveled to join us today to show his support of our Volusia cities. President Ortiz, welcome, and we look forward to your remarks.
to get here.
I sure did.
Or it used him.
Thank you so much. Such a pleasure seeing you. Let me see, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Which one's better? Good morning, everyone. What a pleasure to be up here. President Burnett, Vice President Paritsky, did I pronounce that right?
Yes, you
Okay,
did.
thank you. Thank you for having me. It's such an honor, and all of you, thank you for having me this morning. Yes, I did come from Orlando, and it was raining a lot, and traffic was a mess. Who would say, right? On a Saturday morning. It's amazing. What a great presentation. The part that I got to see is we have to be in touch with government. But let me tell you something a little bit about the background of what's going on here. And we have not been able to catch up, but with your participation, we will. First of all, yes, I'm from Orlando. Any what do you call it? Any similitudes or anyhow, with Sean Connery and my voice is a mere coincidence. Okay, so it's a mere coincidence. I'm not related, and I wish I had gone to. Sometimes I tell people I'm Scottish, but it's hard to believe with the last name of Ortiz. Anyhow, going back to the subject, we have quite a challenge in front of us, and it has to do also with our history. And before I engage into the actual needs for us to get engaged, let me give you a little background. First of all, in 1790, the first census we had in this great nation of ours, we had approximately about 300,000 people per state, give or take. And those 300,000 people did not want a centralized government. They want a decentralized government. They want a central government in the sense of having a federal government that would keep everybody together, but they did not want that central government to serve as a monarchy or dictators. They just wanted to make sure that they kept everybody together. So today we have approximately 300,000 people in some of our cities, give or take, and even in the smaller cities, people want to keep their very unique way of doing business. We want to keep our very decentralized system that we had. Thomas Jefferson being the guy that really pushed for this, used to say, let the communes do what's best for the communes. And the government closest to the people serves the people's best. And we know this. We have great legislators in Tallahassee. We have some that are really in tune with the communities, and they come back and check with the communities. But the majority of those legislators we have are not in tune with the communities. And many of them have never served at the local level. So they don't know what your needs are. And what makes it worse is the fact that they don't come back and check with local elected officials or with you. And they're supposed to be doing that. They're supposed to be doing what she was doing today, telling you what's going on with our legislations. It's not happening. So for that reason, we embarked on an initiative called Building Stronger Cities, to tell our people how we do business, to tell people to engage with government. And I want to commend Ms. Debbie Dorino, because that's what we're supposed to be doing. Calling our legislators, telling them these are the problems we have. If you're not going to come to us, we're going to come to you. And it takes 5 minutes. A call to your representative and a call to your senator. And you're not going to talk to them because they're going to be busy. You're going to talk to their aides. Or you might not even talk to them. You may have to leave a message. But make sure you do. Take those 3 to 5 minutes and do it. Or send them an email if you have the capability. Send them an email. The beauty about the emails is that you can continue cutting and pasting until you drive them nuts, right? Now think about this. Think about this. This is the beauty of this. And we've been going all through the state telling people this, because for the most part, these guys come over and they talk to you and they look pretty and they sound pretty. They tell you, this is what I'm going to do for you. And once they get to Tallahassee, they follow a different type of leadership. They start following the leadership of the Senate or the House of Representatives, because they're concerned that they're not going to get a good office. They send them to the basement if they don't follow instructions. So, or they will not get their bills passed or heard at the House. So, which I have an answer to that. if you don't hear my bill, I'll tell the whole nation that you didn't hear my bill. I get in the newspaper and tell them these guys are being partisan. The needs of the people do not have a party label. The needs of the people need commitment. You know, a hole on the street, a pothole, is not Republican or Democrat. The health issues are not Democrats or Republican. And so these are issues that we just have to attend. And that's why, thankfully, locally, at our local level, when we don't run on partisanship. We run based on the needs of the people and your experience. So we have another task at hand. Before you elect somebody, make sure that they're prepared for this task, to represent you, because that's what we're supposed to do, represent you. We're not the bosses. We're not the boss. We're supposed to be here to represent you, to listen to you at all times, not to dictate to you either. That's why America was formed, because they were tired of what was going on in Europe, the monarchies, the dictatorships. They wanted the freedom. And republicanism is not being conservative, and democracy doesn't come from being a liberal. Republicanism is the governed will elect those who are going to govern, and they will continually tell them what to do. And democracy is where everybody participates. So that's why Thomas Jefferson formed the party of the Democratic Republican Party. It was about listening to the people. It was about, as Lincoln would say, of the people, by the people, and for the people. But we have lost that. Not at the local level so much, but at the highest levels, at the state level and at the federal government. When was the last time you heard and I hope you did, I really hope you did. I hope you have a good representative here. But when was the last time you saw them and the person, whoever it is, talked to you, came here and asked you what's going on here? How about at the federal level? When was the last time they came up here to see you? We have a problem, right? Houston, we have a problem. Well, in this case, Washington and Tallahassee, we have a problem. We need to address these issues. But the way we're going to change this is by you participating, by you just taking 5 minutes of your time and giving them a call. When they start hearing these calls coming from all over the place, they're going to start thinking, they're paying attention. And we have a pamphlet called a legislative summary that tells you how they voted. So by the end of the legislative session, you'll be able to tell if they follow your instructions. And for the love of God, if they didn't, get them out of office. We don't need that anymore. We have put up with a lot. This is about the people. This is about your needs. All these preemptions, we don't need them. We need for people to be listening to you. We need for people to engage. Those who are representing, they're supposed to be representing, coming to you and checking with you. And with that being said, I want to thank you once again for this opportunity. I want to encourage for you guys to get involved. It doesn't take that long. Make sure you invite people to keep you posted on what's going on. Yes, sir.
Can I say something? Your speech is right on. We're here for the people, and that's very important. I congratulate on your speech. It's perfect.
Thank you.
More people need to understand that the representatives of the town, the state, we're here for the people, not for ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you. As I said, we represent. We represent. We're not here to dictate. So thank you for that comment. But we have to keep everybody in check. This is a two-way street here. We give them information, they're supposed to keep you posted on what's going on. And if it's not happening, if it's not working for you, we need to remove them. And this works for all levels. It works for your local level, for your state level, and for your federal level. If they're not engaging you, get them out, because they're supposed to be representing you. You pay an attorney when you want them to represent you in XYZ case, right? And they're supposed to follow your instructions to the extent where they come in and they say, okay, I'm an attorney, I'm going to tell you how you're supposed to do this based on the law and whatnot. Well, it's no different. You're paying this guy's a salary, all of us. So make sure we're doing the work that we're supposed to be doing for you. With that being said, as I said before, please engage. Only takes 2 minutes. The instructions she gave you about the text, that's pretty neat. So we do have at the Florida League of Cities what I call advocacy in steroids. Because we have Mr. Scott Dudley. Did he come here to talk already? He'll be a good guy to bring over. Because what he'll do is, if he gets your email or your text, whatnot, he'll keep you posted about what's going on. But that same list of people that he has is going to present to his legislators. He's going to say, look at what's coming to you. Look at what's coming to you. So I told you about the legislative summary, which is that pamphlet where you'll be able to check on those at the end of the legislative session to see how your legislator did. And hopefully they did what was right. If they don't, you will know what to do. That's how we're going to bring the power and the influence of government back to our shoulders, back to the municipalities, to you, because you're the boss. Have you seen the outline for your city, how it goes on the mayor and the commissioners and blah, blah? But before all of them, the citizen. Citizen comes first. So let's go ahead and make sure that people at all levels know that you guys are in charge. Know those who you send out, whatever, to represent. God bless you. Thank you so much for the opportunity to present. And let's work together. God bless you. Thank you. Well, thank you too for allowing me, for bringing me here. This is awesome. You have a beautiful group of people. You have a beautiful town. This is awesome. I remember I lived in Daytona for a little while. I was going to Amarillo, and so these were my stomping grounds, as they say. And I used to go to the beach close to around here. Back it's almost 30 years ago. But you have a beautiful place here. So thank you so much for the opportunity. God bless you all.
We have time for some questions and answers, and I want you to know we have quite a few resources in the room to answer some of those questions. We have our elected officials, we have President Ortiz, so please, is there anybody who wishes to ask a question on the topic of advocacy? Anything we could do to help you with respect to the Volusia League of Cities or the Florida League of Cities?
Why don't you get all the elected officials up here in a panel?
Oh, I would love that. And a photo, I would love that. That's a great idea, Don. May I have all the elected officials come on up here?
From any city.
From any city. And you're part of a panel now.
That way we can have your back.
The home rule text too, it was kind of like to see on the screen. Do you have it?
The home rule? Oh, yes, the text number. Okay.
If you repeat it, please, on your way down.
I want to make sure I get the number right.
It's on the screen. It's on the screen.
Oh, here it is. Okay. This is a wonderful panel of local elected officials, all of whom are part of the Volusia League of Cities, and we have our president of the Florida League of Cities. She's one picture. Well, first of all, if you do have a question, we have the answer.
Might not always like the answer, but we do have them.
They're taking a picture, and then we'll take our questions.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
And I got lots of pictures of all of these.
Okay, I see a hand, Tracy.
So Lois, as a non-resident, but an owner in one of the condominiums, what's my course of action? You know, I can't vote, right? I have no political power from that perspective. Financial support I can provide, but what are my other avenues as an owner?
You have the same as everybody else. The fact that you're not voting doesn't mean you don't have a voice, and it doesn't mean you can't articulate your concerns. And rest assured, if you have a concern, most likely others who are not writing have that concern. And the representative is most likely going to be quite responsive. And when you write an email, I mean, you're just saying your name and where you live. So does anyone have anything else to add? Yes, and I don't know how you.
So hi, Dave Israel, C4. So when you have a concern, you can email the town manager, and all of the council members get a copy of your email, and we will respond to you. So even though you don't have the voting power, you still are a resident here, and you own here, and we will respond to you immediately.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sure.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
I just want to add, and I won't, you don't have to wipe the mic down, you can take it back. That's what we talked about when we said home rule. You have access to us. You have easy access to us, all of us. And it might work a little bit harder up the line, getting to Tallahassee, but President Ortiz mentioned it, they might not be the ones answering the phone, they might not be the ones checking the email, but they know how many have called them. Their legislative aides keep track of all that. But that's what we talk about when it comes to home rule. You have easy access to all of us. So whether you live here, or you live across the river in my city, or you're a part-time resident of the state, you have easy access to us, and that's what home rule is all about.
And let me add something to that. At every one of our council meetings, there is a public comment section. And we have people that don't live here, don't own here, but are interested, and it comes to light when we're talking about the environment and some of the environmentalists. They come to those meetings, they ask their question, or they make their statement, and we will try and answer that question in person for you.
So, from my perspective, this is news to me from this, I guess, this level, I'll call it. So how do we get that word out? Because I'm sure there are many, many other people like me in this community that are owners and not residents, and how, do they understand that they have a voice?
You know, I can tell you this, Tracy, under the leadership of President Ortiz, we have really started to create the infrastructure to reach out to everybody and to communicate exactly what you're talking about. I think there's many people here who received an email from me early on, right around the beginning of the legislature, asking to sign up as a key contact. This is unfolding, and we're building on something that will continue year after year, so that exactly what you're talking about is going to occur. Because if I get the president of a condo association with the distribution list of all their residents, and there is something along these lines, and something that needs to be communicated, that's how I do it. It'll go to the president and then be distributed. But this is a wonderful advocacy initiative, and we're working hand in hand with the staff of the Florida League of Cities, Scott Dudley, who has created this program for us, and this is what we're doing, so it's only going to gain momentum.
First,
Yes,
let me say something,
please.
and I failed to mention, for those of you that like to mess with computers, there's a website called buildingstrongercities.com, buildingstrongercities.com, and it will give you all the tools that you need to address college, Kiwanis clubs, chambers of commerce, your neighbor, your friends. You will find all kinds of information there, TED Talks, speeches, anything that you want to look at to see, to kind of inform yourself in order for them to be able to talk to other people.
And this is all very important for advocacy at each level. And I can share this with you, is that our representative and Senator Wright and Representative Lee, have met with me on numerous occasions. And what I want to share with you is that if you walk in and say, I just oppose this bill, well, that creates an atmosphere, on one level. But if I come in and I say, I know what is upsetting my residents, and hear their concerns, and what can you do for them? And what kind of modifications could you make to the bill? What kind of amendments would you consider? So perhaps they have a way of still moving forward with the bill we're not happy with while addressing our concerns. That would be beneficial. And if they have concerns where there's some balancing going on, at least I could bring that back to you. So it is two-way communication as well, and we're trying to build on that. Now, we want the community involvement on a very significant level. Yes.
The two bills on home-based business, do they describe what a business is, or could that be another way to unregulate short-term rental and things like that?
They do define it within the bill. And as you're suggesting, it's true, there's a lot of things going on with preemptions that are working to erode home rule that are overlapping in many bills, yes. Oh, yes.
Looking at House Bill 219 on the short-term rentals, I was wondering what neck of the woods the sponsor came from for this bill. You know the sponsor bill?
Tony, would you like to take that?
I'm just curious.
I love the way you put it, what neck of the woods. I believe it's from the West Coast, but I'm not quite certain. I can tell
I
you.
can look it up.
But as you very well said, and as Vice President Paritsky said, it's all about what we need for our community. It's not that we are against, in favor, or opposed. It's the fact that every municipality have their way of doing business. What may work here may not work somewhere else, so they need to respect that. But thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
How would we go to find out where our representative or senator voted? It says that it's available to find out whether they voted yea or nay. Where do we go to get that information?
Okay. Well, there's several places, and all of you could share in with this as well, is that the Senate has a website and the House has a website, and you could actually sign up so that bills get tracked, and as they work their way through the House or the Senate, you'll be notified of when a committee meets to vote on a bill, and you'll see the vote in committee, which is not, that's just maybe 5 to 10 members, depending where it is, which committee. And then once it gets to the floors, is, again, you could look at it on the websites. However, I believe that we have resources at the Florida League, the website, for all of the bills as well. Does anyone wish to?
The bill summaries, so that the
There you go.
websites are on your handout for the Senate and the House, the website. And then at the bottom, it says additional resources, and you can find the bill summaries that you were asking about, and it tells you who sponsored the bill. And then on that Florida League of Cities website, there are other links there where you can track some of it as well.
And what I need to tell you is that is Mariah Rains, who's our executive director, and she is amazing and has helped coordinate this entire event, and we're very appreciative, and did the handouts for you.
Something on that is that tracker, it pushes out emails, so that's wonderful, it feeds you. But I encourage you, if there's a bill that you are interested in, this is usually not a one and done kind of thing. So if a bill doesn't get out of committee or it doesn't get, we've been dealing with short-term rentals, we've been dealing with them and stuff many years. I've been on the council for 10 years and been following this. So a few years ago when the Stoneman-Douglas shooting, that kind of took all the energy out of the legislature. A lot of those bills just came up the next year. So if it doesn't get passed this year and it's of interest, pay attention in the future because it'll make its way around to us again.
Barbara.
Well, first, thank you for doing this. This is great. And then these are the Volusia County representatives. So which one would be Ponce Inlet?
Okay, Ponce Inlet, it is, and what you have pictures of is the entire Volusia delegation, and they're very important to us because when we are advocating at the local level and are going to meetings, roundtables, all of those legislators are there. However, the ones that are voted in, we have Representative Leak and we have Senator Wright. That is for Ponce Inlet, and I'm not sure, that is for Port Orange as well. And is it for South Daytona?
We have Federoff and Wright.
Okay, Representative Federhoff, but they all work together, and they are on behalf of the Volusia County. They're part of our delegation. Yes.
Manny Diaz from Hialeah is a sponsor for that bill.
Different neck of the woods.
Before I let anybody go, I just want to acknowledge the generous donation of those delicious cakes. I hope you enjoyed them. They're from a French bakery in New Smyrna Beach called Mon Delice Bakery. And I also want to let everybody know who registered that you can anticipate an email from the Volusia League of Cities after this presentation with resources, and we're looking really to ascertain your interest in any additional advocacy initiatives, so that it's not once you leave here, that's it. We want to follow up and see if you have an interest in doing anything further, and then we can work with all of you. And I need to thank the wonderful volunteers here at the community center, without whom we could not have had this community event. Thank you. Yes, Jim.
I'd like to say, for all the residents of Pontoon, like the lady up there, if you want to know what's happening in town, go to the town hall and rip through your email. Because they send out emails that you turn it into the town, what's happening, what's going on. We'll get an email from the town.
Thank you, Jim. That was very good information, as you can go to the Town of Ponsonlet's website and sign up to receive emails to find out exactly what is going on. Now, and I want to thank this wonderful panel that I have up here today. Thank you each for coming here, and I appreciate all. And President Ortiz, all I can tell you is that we are overwhelmed and so appreciative that you came here today to be with us.
My pleasure.
So I thank you. Thank you. And if there are no further questions, is there anything you would like to say, Doc?
One thing I want to add is, we've thanked everybody. We need to thank Lois Paritsky, your vice mayor. This is just a beginning. This is not the end. This is just the beginning. It goes to you, and it's all through you, and this is what we do. We do this for you. So it's up to you now. Thank you.
Thank you.